I need y'all to do me a favor right fast. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get all of our content as soon as it drops. With that being said, let's get back to the video. You dig? Alright, what's going on, y'all? It's your guy CJ100, 50% of the 5100 podcast. Back at you with another solo episode. And today's episode is going to be called The Life of a Non-Custodial Parent, which I am, right? So I wanted to have this conversation because most people don't understand what it can be like as a parent that's considered a non-custodial parent. It presents its own unique challenges, and there's a perspective that people just don't really hear because most fathers, well, maybe recently it's changed, but for the most part, non-custodian parents are fathers and they don't really speak about it as much as they should so people could have an understanding. So, you know me, I'm going to fill the void. I'm going to speak for the men that don't speak for themselves or they can't or don't know how to, right? So one of the challenges of being a non-custodial parent is not being able to see your kids every day. Now, when I talk about this, what seems to come up a lot is the fact that mothers have the children all the time and they don't complain, yada, 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 which is not true. I mean, I don't know how many women I know. I can't even count the number of women I know that are single parents and claim to not have support from fathers or really don't have support from fathers. I can't tell you how many I know of those type of women that complain. They all complain pretty much, which is, I mean, it's understandable, but they do it. They might, try to put out this facade that they strong and they got it and ain't worried about nothing, but 99.9% of the time, that's not the case, right? So the thing that people don't seem to understand about fathers is the fact that when we were living with the woman or were married to the woman and had the child, we were used to being with that child every day. And when a split comes, it's almost always a situation where the mother gets full custody or is assumed to have full custody, which is why I tell brothers if they know they're not going to be with the woman anymore, go on down to juvenile court and get some in motion. You know what I mean? Because if you wait for her to do it, which is what most of us would do because we're not tripping, we thinking everything is cool, we just going to do what we got to do for the kids. Well, I don't know how much more evidence you need to see that that's not the case. Women will definitely take advantage of that system. So you have to be smart in the way you move. But I digress. So I just remember when me and my ex-wife first split, and I want to say this real quick. This is not a shot at her. We're good right now. We're not in a bad space, but I got a job to do, and I have to talk about things that could help men in a situation that could potentially end up like mine, right? So when we first split, everything was pretty cool. It started off pretty cool, right? But I was getting my daughter every other week it was every week. It was like I would get her, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and her mother would have her the rest of the days. And sometimes she would have her more, and sometimes I would have her more. It just we kind of went with the flow. We split bills down the middle, like daycare, clothes, and I would go a little further and beyond when it comes to clothes and shoes because I like my daughter looking nice. You know what I'm saying? So I would spend a little extra money on some shoes or whatever. We would even meet for Christmas. So I would sleep on the couch and we would wait for our daughter to wake up so she could open her gifts. Right? We used to do that. Still, that was a tough thing because I couldn't be there every day. What I was used to doing, waking up and going down the hallway or waking up and going to her crib and just kissing her, I couldn't do anymore. So that's one of the challenges of being a non-custodial parent. You automatically, for the most part, don't get to see your kids every day, right? Now, what this does, right, when you move on, you're not in a relationship anymore, and that child is not in the home anymore. This is before child support ever or anything like that comes in the picture. what happens is you become an easy target for manipulation and ridicule. And the reason that is because they presume that you have a less responsibility, right? Because they have the child with them physically more than you do. So the assumption is, well, he doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and he's not this, and he's not that, right? And it's kind of hard to argue against her because in our community, if you haven't noticed, the father is the number one sacrifice that everyone uses when we're talking about what's wrong with our community, right? That's always been the narrative. We need more fathers in the home. We need more active parents. And the stigma gets attached to the man, the black man, most cases, that he doesn't care about his kids, right? So just follow me. So when I didn't do something that her mother wanted done, or I couldn't do something, the word deadbeat would get thrown at me instantly, right? Now, I don't believe she believes I'm a deadbeat. Matter of fact, I know she doesn't. But back then, that word would hit me so hard because I didn't want to be that. You know, I value being a father. Like, I stand on dad business, you feel me? So she would use those words to manipulate me to do things. And when it didn't work, the manipulation didn't work, she would even go further with her insults. And she would also tell other people that I don't do X, Y, and Z. I would get the calls. I would get all that, right? I would know what was going on, even if she didn't think I knew. A lot of that would go on when it comes to being a non-custodial father. When it comes to the manipulation, it's not just getting you to do something. Sometimes it's just, she's feeling a way about her day. So it's, well, you can't see her or him because you're not doing what I want you to do. Like, I remember this one situation. It was my birthday weekend. And all I asked her to do was keep her for that night. So I could set up this party because it was a lit party too. I was like, but she can't be there for that, and I don't really ask for much. And I ain't ask her to help with nothing, just get her. And she had attitude about it. So I remember I was a deadbeat. I didn't care about our child, which was funny because like weeks before that, she had went out of town and I kept her. You know what I'm saying? So when you're in this position, you're set up to be manipulated and ridiculed. And the number one word or the number one phrase to ridicule a non-custodial parent is deadbeat. That's the word used to shame you because you're not doing what they want you to do, or they're trying to shame you into doing what they want you to do. That's what you kind of deal with being a non-custodial parent. It's not an easy thing, but it is what it is, but it's a difficult thing, right? So what usually comes after these type of situations is being in that child support system. You can almost set your clock to it, bro. It's gonna happen if you don't go ahead and get ahead of the BS. Because if you don't, she will. Like, they'll tell you when you're with them, I will never put you on child support. But they'll leave a caveat, as long as you do what you're supposed to do. Now, what does that look like? I'm gonna tell you what it looked like for me and a lot of guys that I know. If you don't do what I want you to do, then I'll put you on child support. That's what they really mean. Because I did everything I could for my daughter when we split. I even helped her mama out. I helped her get tires for her car. I've helped her pay one of her bills. I've given her, old stuff from our old house. And I bought her a sound bar and some more shit. Like, I did a lot to try to help her. You know what I mean? I tried to keep things cool, but that didn't matter when she realized that I had got a good job. Once that came into motion, all right, let's get child support on the line, right? So that's another struggle for a non-custodial parent, child support. And let me explain this to women that may not understand this. And men, I need y'all to definitely listen closely. The thing about child support is not really the money per se, though that is a big factor. I don't think it's the biggest factor, right? So I had this very good job. Let's just say very good for Memphis, right? Because the job I'm about to get is not even close. But at the time, this was one of the best jobs I had ever had, right? So me being me, when I started making more money, I told her mother, you know what, we ain't got to split daycare anymore. I'll pay it all. And that was $600 a month. She was at a nice daycare. So I decided to take care of that, all the way completely. Later on, I realized that was a mistake because that confirmed to her that I was making a lot of money, which when I look back at it, it was decent money. It wasn't a lot, but it was decent, right? So that became an entry point for her to get child support. Now, the thing about child support that really affects you is the fact that they set it at a percentage. So it was like 23% of my income that was hit with child support, which is almost a third of my income. It basically is, right? So you take away a third. I'm paying $1,000 a month in child support at this time. Now, my rent was $1,000. My truck was $400. My insurance was $150. So a lot of my money is gone. So you know what that does? It handicaps you, right? It puts you in a position where it makes your child a bill. It makes your child just a financial obligation. It makes it hard for you to do anything other than work, especially if you don't have a degree or any kind of certification that guarantees you a certain amount of money. Because what that does when they lock you in at that percentage, if you get another job, they still expect you to pay that, right? Also, what a lot of women will do and what the courts will do is that they'll back pay you. They'll hit you with a back pay. So from the time you guys split, for the most part, you have to agree on the time that you split. So let's just say 3 years, right? What they'll do is they'll retro you. They'll go back those 3 years, look at what you're about to pay now, and retro it. So what happened to me was I ended up having a $27,000 back pay. And I'm thinking to myself, I have only been at this job for about 6 months. How are you charging me like I've been making this for 3 years? Y'all following me? This is what happens, right? And what does that do, having that amount of back pay? It can get your license suspended. It can keep you from getting a passport. In some cases, you can't even own a firearm. So it handicaps you. See, it's deeper than just the money, right? But let's just speak about the money for a second. If you don't have a college degree and you're making a certain amount of money, let's say you were getting a lot of overtime at the time you were put on child support. They don't care. They're going to charge you for that overtime, even though you're only guaranteed 40. They don't care what you're guaranteed. They just put you in a position where you got to take care of X, Y, and Z financially. Doesn't matter what your financial situation is. They're only looking at what you're bringing in. Nothing else matters. So, being in that situation, it handicaps you. It also undermines your authority as a father, right? Because the woman values the money. The woman values the control. So what you say is non-consequential to them because they got the money. They have the child most of the time, especially if you don't have a custody order in place, definitely. And they hit you with every excuse in the book why they can't work with you on something. This is how they start out. I'll say in my situation, she got a whole lot better, but she didn't really get that much better until a custody order was put in place. Then she kind of got her mind right a little bit. But before then, oh no, it was no understanding. It was no reason. If I didn't do anything, I wasn't shit. If I had an issue with anything, I wasn't shit. But while she's saying that, she's also getting $1,000 a month out of me, or a woman will be getting it out of a man. You get what I'm saying? So I want y'all to understand, like, this is deeper than you don't keep the kid as much, because what it does, it sets you up to be, okay, you don't have the kid as much, but I'm going to give you the financial burden, which means when she comes with me, or my son or daughter comes with me, that I have to also take care of them when they're with me. And when they leave, I'm also taking care of them. It's double duty financially. You know how women talk about they're the mother and the father because they do it all because the man ain't there. Well, I'm not going to call myself a mother, but it's double duty on the non-custodial parent side if he's a man worth his salt as well. And this is why some men will leave the situation because it's too much. I've had the thoughts myself. So there would be situations where my daughter would be doing something I don't agree with. So I reprimand her. I get on her case about it. And then her mother would be told about it. And she would call me with the BS, like I'm doing something wrong by being a father. And I used to always tell her, stop undermining me as a father. Because it's going to matter so much more later when she gets older. Like you can't because you have the power, and I guess you can, but you shouldn't because you have the power, take advantage of me, take advantage of her. And a lot of manipulation happens to the child as well. That child gets told as your dad, he's nothing. He doesn't do anything for you. She literally told my daughter that as I was paying $1,000 a month in child support. She literally said I was doing nothing for her. And I believe in the black community, that's just the standard default position. Like it's programmed in our women's head that we're nothing, no matter what we do. And I think it's just because we're not with them anymore. That's my personal opinion, but who knows 100% why they do what they do when it comes to these kids. But parental alienation is a real thing too, right? It leaves you susceptible to a lot of things as a man. When speaking about the amount that I had to pay, I had to work upwards of 60 hours to be able to manage my finances in a way that worked for my household. Because that's the thing. I have a household as well, as I'm paying for my child while she's with her mother and taking care of her when she's with me. Because I'm not, I take care of my daughter. Like I don't just do the bare minimum. I take care of my daughter. You know what I'm saying? So that puts you in a position when you're making that money to have to be gone more. So what does that do? It removes time from the child. So it puts a man in a position where, well, I have to take care of this, but I also need to be with my child. It's a difficult situation, right? And you lose a lot of time. I'm gonna be honest with you. You lose a lot of time depending on what that amount of money you have to pay, right? And almost the amount doesn't matter because depending on where you are financially, if it's $500 but you only make $800 a week, or $1,000 every 2 weeks, that's half your check gone. So it's just something to think about, right? So let's look at it like this. If you have to be the financial parent, you have to give up something. You have to. Because if you're not a high earning person that's in a field that you can make 50 plus and only work 40 hours, you're going to miss something. And I happen to work overnight, which was also a difficult thing because if I had my daughter during the week, I had to find somebody to watch her, which her mother did not like. She had an issue with my mother. She had an issue with my grandmother. She had an issue with everything. It puts you in a position, even if she doesn't seriously have the issue, her saying it holds weight because you're paying the piper. The courts are in her favor. This is how this shit goes. So it's not as simple as, well, you need to get your daughter more and be a better father, because I'm criticized and I'm ostracized and I'm handicapped either way it goes. It's never a good situation. That's why you should stay with the person you have a child with. That's why I always say, brothers, choose wisely as best as you can, because you can't mitigate all risk, but mitigate the ones you can and pay attention to the behavior of the woman, because when you split from her after her having a child, the true person she is going to show, no doubt about it, right? So I want to talk about being a second-class parent, basically like a substitute parent, right? So her mother lives on the other side of town, right? It's about a 30-minute drive for me, which is not impossible, but I'm gonna put this thing in context in a second. So she lives 30 minutes away from me, right? So you know what that means? Everything my daughter does is on that side of town, right? So when she's with me, I have to take her 30 minutes to school, and I have to take 30 minutes to get her back from school. That's a negative. That's more of my gas coming out of my pocket, including the fact that I'm paying child support, right? And taking care of her. So there's more coming out of my pocket financially, my time, right? Also, my daughter's is in extracurricular activities. Guess what side of town that's on? Her mother's side. So that's another 30-minute drive to go get her and a 30-minute drive to bring her back, right? And then when it's time to meet with her mother, or when it's time to take her to school the next Monday, I have to take her back. So I take her to school twice a week and pick her up twice a week. And on the following week, I drop her off one more time. That's a difficult thing, especially when you work, because you have to manage more than one part of life. Even though I'm looked at as the financial provider, I have to do that in a way where my time is limited. I don't get to do as much as I normally would do because I'm handicapped with my time, because I have to work the hours to make the money, which I no longer work at that same job that was paying as good as it was. Now I'm having to definitely work overtime if they offer it to make it. And if they don't, if I'm at a job that doesn't offer overtime, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Because it's pointless for me to be there with the amount of child support I pay and the amount of bills I pay. And another thing about the child support, right? They charged me when I was in a different bracket. When I was in that bracket, they hit me, right? Which ultimately knocked me out of that bracket. But it was still charging me at that same bracket rate, if that makes sense. So basically, I was getting hit for a certain amount of money, which I was doing okay before they hit me. When they hit me, they knocked me out of that bracket because it took $12,000 a year off of what I was making. So it basically knocked me down $12,000, but child support doesn't give a damn about that. They're just gonna take it. My bills don't care about it either. They need their money. So that's why I'm bringing, time and the location of where my daughter is, because it's all a factor when you're a non-custodial parent. But as far as being a second-class parent, you're not included in major decisions, right? Sometimes they'll tell you what's going on, but it's not like I'm inquiring with you. I'm just going to tell you what it's going to be, and I need you to make your part of it work. You know how frustrating that is? So if I don't agree with something, I have no say, but I got to pay for it, right? That's how things go. It's crazy, but that's how things go. You get put in a position where you just have to go along and get along, because if you shake the boat, at least your perception is, if I shake this boat, things will get worse. Things are okay, so let me not rock the boat. You know what I'm saying? That's the position that it puts you in. It removes your authority because you have to be a little more docile. You have to be more understanding because you're not in the position of power, right? The courts don't allow you to get in the position of power. I fought tooth and nail to only get about 45% of custody of my daughter. Her mother still is the custodial parent. I'm still the non-custodial, which I'm fine with, but it just changes the whole ball game, bro. So it puts you in a position where what you think really doesn't matter. It also puts you in a position when it comes to child support, right? I had a party for my daughter where her party was like $400. And that same week, I had $400 taken out of my check, right? That's a $800 move in one day. Like, understand something. When women be like, you don't do nothing for your child but pay child support. I've really heard women say this. And it's like, ma'am, he has a life. Well, you shouldn't have had a child. Okay, well, stop complaining about being a single mother. You see what I'm saying? When the man has any reasons or feelings or complaints about what he's dealing with, Nobody really wants to understand that part of it. They just want to ridicule and criticize. And they're in the position to do it socially because our black community does not value fathers. They say they do, but they really don't. It's only chastisement for fathers, which is why I had a conversation with my father. Y'all make sure y'all go check the episode out if you haven't. But that's why I did it, because I wanted you to see another side of it. And that's why I'm doing this one, so you can see another side of it. It's not as simple as you don't want to be there. I have to provide, which I actually did as a husband too. I worked a lot and she still complained. So that's why I don't really listen to women like that, because if you listen to them, it will drive you crazy. And our social status in our community is not good. We're not viewed as a good, like black men are not viewed as good black men. They're not. It's very rare that we actually get that moniker attached to us in real life. It's usually deadbeat, nigga, ain't shit. That's what it is when it comes to black men. But I digress. This last part I'm gonna talk about, and I'm gonna go and wrap it up, is dealing with a step parent or boyfriend, right? Because now you have another man around your child, influencing your child, possibly disciplining your child, right? And in that position, it is very, very delicate and very, very difficult. Me and this man have almost come to blows behind things that were said by him, me, and my ex-wife. It's a difficult situation because, you know, games get played with that as well. Like my daughter was being encouraged to call him dad, which is complete bullshit. And I know some women, well, he's doing this, he's only there because he's with the mama. And y'all need to understand that. Just like y'all, you know, I've heard women say, well, you know, my baby daddy take care of these other women's kids better than he take care of theirs. You know why? Because he's there with the woman. That's the only difference. He would be doing the same thing if he was with you. Now, I know there are some guys that don't do nothing for their kids, right? But there are guys that, the same ones that do nothing for their kids, if they're with a woman with kids and he wants to be there, he's going to play the role, whether he's a good father or not. So bring it back to what I was saying. The only reason he's around my daughter more is because he's shacking up with my ex-wife. That's it. Not saying he don't care about her, not saying he can't love her. I'm saying the only reason he signed up to do it was to be with the woman. I'll take care of my child no matter what the circumstances are. You see the difference? So that's a difficult situation when you're a loving, caring father like me, because I'm worried about what the fuck going on. And there's been things that's been said I won't speak on anymore that I was ready to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? It just puts you in a peculiar situation. And think about what I said earlier. You have money being taken from you. You're not able to see your kids as much as you would want to. You're in a situation where you can be easily manipulated and ridiculed. All of these things play into how you're going to see that other step parent, because he has access to your child more than you do simply because he's with your child's mother. That's a bitter pill to swallow. So this is just one part. I'm gonna do more of this. I want to talk more about non-custodial parents, but this is just a part of it that I want y'all to understand, man. It's not as simple as, well, he's not taking care of the kids or he's not keeping the child as much or whatever the case may be. It's not usually that simple. It's just people don't want to talk about that because it doesn't fit the narrative. But before I go, I want to read this post I commented on yesterday. There was a post that said, why don't y'all let fathers get full custody and you get kids on the weekend, right? And a woman said, because women aren't okay with seeing kids only 2 days out the week, why it doesn't bother some men to see the kids at all, right? Now, this is what I'm talking about. In our community, that is the presumption. Women think that they're better parents, number one. Number two, they think black men don't care about their kids. That's really what they think, because we don't do what they do. Most Most men don't necessarily want to have their kids just for the weekend. They'd rather be there every day if they was with the mother. But like I said earlier, they would even complain when you're a father that works a lot and you're not there to do a lot of the home activities or the home duties. They would still complain. So what they do is compartmentalize their feelings and places their feelings onto you. You should feel the way they do. They just don't understand we don't. We're not as coochie coochie cool as mamas are. That's just the reality of it. We're not that way. We love our kids, we play with our kids, we adore our kids, but it's not in the way a woman does it. If that was the case, you would be telling me a happy Mother's Day, but I don't see now one of y'all doing that, right? So anyway, I want to share one more part of it, right? So I answered the question. I said the answer is child support and control, tax benefits, Section 8, food stamps. It all depends on the woman's circumstances. I want to read her response and what I said one more time and what she said, and I'm done. I'm gonna get out of here, right? So she said, so what about single mothers who don't rely on the government and the dads still don't visit their kids? Worst cop out a man can make. If you're not having your kid and not chipping in on daily expenses for you're for sure supposed to be on child support though. Laughing emoji. I never laughed once. And I said, I'm only addressing the topic. I'm not talking about what you're talking about. And her response was, but I'm saying, why don't men have custody if they're not on child support? And the BM not on Section 8, which most BMs aren't because you legit can't make anything to be on Section 8, right? That was her response. I didn't respond anymore to her because I already knew what she was doing. She's moving the goalposts when the conversation was literally about why don't y'all let fathers get full custody and y'all get the weekends? The truth is they want control. The truth is mothers want to be with the children a little bit more than fathers do, especially when they're young. They say they don't. They complain when they actually do. But the truth is that's what they want. And I don't think there's a problem with that. My only issue is I spoke on that because I've actually been in a situation where I tried to have more time with my child and I was denied it. And I know why. Because the more time you spend with children that you can document, the less money the mother gets in child support. That's a factor. So she only focused on the Section 8 thing. And she said, a man that is not helping with daily expenses should definitely be on child support. Look, my job is not to cover every daily damn expense. It's not to split it down the damn middle. That's never how anything works. I can't stand when people say that because they don't know what the fuck they talking about. Handle your part, I'll handle mine. That's what it comes down to. I was doing what I could for my daughter. I was paying daycare. Look, it doesn't matter. You can be doing all that and still be put on child support. I was. So when I hear fuck it. When I hear idiots like her speak, I already know her mentality. She has the same mentality the majority of black women in our community have, that we just can't be shit if we're not with that woman. Because they think we're supposed to think like them and they're trying to think like us. On that note, I'm gonna wrap this thing up, man. Y'all be safe out there. You dig.